Thank you for staying with us. And like Kunle said earlier, we're shifting our attention to the International Women's Day and focus on inspiring inclusion, values, and of course, empowerment. And that's why this morning we have the former Director General of the National Agency for Prohibition of Trafficking in Persons, NAPTIP, who is also the Executive Director for Roost Foundation. Of course, she's here with us and looking ever resplendent. Julie Okadonli, it's good to see you.
Thank you.
As always.
Thank you.
And we also have the Executive Director, Global Love Initiative, Precious Jaja. It's good to see you as well. Good. Welcome to the show.
Good to have you, ladies. Congratulations, International Women's Day. How many do we have in a year, actually?
How many Women's Day?
Yes.
Just once. We celebrate it once a year.
Really?
And then we have the International Day for the Girl Child.
For the Girl Child.
And then one other day.
It's the same.
Oh,
really?
Well, not necessarily. And then we have Mother's Day as well.
You have Mother's Day, you have Girls' Day.
Are you jealous, Kunle? Is there more
Girl Child Day.
We have Father's Day, Brother's Day.
Father's Day is just one day.
We have the day for the boy child as well.
Oh, really?
Yes.
All right.
All right. So let's get into the conversation first. Maybe I will start with you, Precious, really. I mean, the International Women's Day this year cuts across inspiring, inclusion, which is the fulcrum of our conversation. How does this come to you first, coming into this year's theme?
Okay. The International Women's Day has come to stay, and we're working tirelessly on empowering the woman. But this year, the theme has cut across the world, ensuring that we all put inclusivity in place. So I just feel that no one should be left behind, ensuring that we empower everyone that needs to be empowered in every way we can, as it is the biggest message we have for this year.
Okay, investing in women accelerates progress. That's the theme for the International Women's Day for this year. What kind of investment are you looking at for women? Nigeria has a Ministry of Women Affairs and so much is going on there. But what exactly are the things that you have in mind?
So when we're talking about investing in women, we're not just talking about sensitizing women on women abuses and things like that. We're talking about action. Women, as you know, have always taken the back seat. They've always been relegated to the background. So we're talking about it is high time that women have a seat at the table with you in terms of politics.
You're already here. There are three women. I'm just one.
Women must have a seat on the table, at the table with the men.
Okay.
In politics, for example, I don't want to even go into politics because Adawara knows what I'm talking about. Yeah. You want to run for Senate, you want to run for House of Reps, and they tell you, no, give it to the man. They push you behind. They don't even give you a chance to compete with them. We're talking about in every form, everything we're talking about, not just in politics. We're talking of socially, we're talking of economically, we're talking of in government, we're talking about all over. Governance, for example. You even look at committees. They set up a committee. Just take your time to count how many women are in the committees. Then you know what I'm talking about. Women are really relegated, and we must begin to take a seat at the table.
Okay, so still stay with you. I mean, we've had a lot of, conversation with you on inclusion. I remember one of them, you said a woman's brain is her only asset that can take her to the top, which means that women are not bereft of capacity.
Absolutely.
But then in terms of the enabling environment, there's one thing to see our population as a currency, is another thing for the nation to activate that currency. So where does the enabling environment come in? Does it come from the policy thrust of the country, or does it come from the strategic engagement by the women themselves?
It also comes from the policy thrust of the society. Right now, like, I give kudos to Mr. President, because you can see a deliberate attempt at least putting women in strategic positions, and it's not enough. He can do more. The political will is very important. And then the women also coming together with one voice to say, you know what, enough is enough. We must make sure that we are included, you know, in governance, in politics, in every aspect, you know, of governance. We must be there. Our voices must be heard. We must take a seat at the table with the men. There must be this gender parity that must be visible. We don't just talk about it, but it must be seen. It must be heard, you know, and it must be practiced.
Okay, inspiring inclusion. It makes me wonder, where is the lowest level that we can start from? Because I'm looking at building blocks here. Because if we're thinking in terms of elective positions alone, I think we may just be overreaching ourselves at this point. But those are my thoughts, and I stand to be corrected. But what are the lowest building blocks that we can start with, especially the girl child? In homes, for instance, in some homes you probably will hear, oh, boys don't cook, girls are meant to be in the kitchen and all of that. And those are the things that go on in the heads of girls as they grow up thinking, oh, we're just meant to be domesticated and we really can't aspire too much. The people who beat me the most in primary school were both girls.
Because girls are powerful. All right, so I want to talk about the girl child and the motherhood down to where we are this day, talking about the International Women's Day. We all have to start this work from the grassroots. Starting from the grassroots gives that enablement to everyone to be carried along in a way.
Okay.
Yes. So talking about the women, we ensure that we create an awareness to build a world that includes everyone, includes every woman in the capacity building, both economically, both socially and culturally. You know, Nigeria is wide and it's a diverse country that has different cultures that employs that women should always be behind. But the world we have, the development has taught us that it's not just about that. Education has come in to teach us that it's not just about that. We have women in different categories, you know. So I want to digress a little bit on the International Women's Day this year. You know, we picked up a class of women that we want to empower. Those women are not the ones who have formal education. We just picked a class of women that we want to empower in different ways to build up their homes in different ways.
All right, let me come to Julie. I mean, when you hear inclusion, the first thing that comes to your mind are women, which really in the conversation they are the minority. But then within the minority, there is also the sub-women with disabilities. And, that's a major conversation. And then you also have women with learning disabilities within the disability. How do we also, ensure that we do not leave them outside the conversation when we speak of inclusion? Because I hear you comment, Mr. President, but I also dare to differ because a lot of criticisms have come from different quarters from the disability community that there seems to be a huge gap of persons with disability in this government across board, whether it is from civil service down to the institutions, down to politics, down to leadership. So how do we also look at inspiring inclusion in that space?
Well, first of all, I want to remind you that we have a disability commission, something like that, and that has been established to take care of all of this. I mean, it's very important that someone living with disability is the head of the commission. It puts, he puts himself in their position, so he's able to really ensure inclusion for those persons living with disability. I want to believe that the commission is working hard because at the end of the day, it is the person running that commission that is going to speak for the people and is going to ensure that government does what they should do so that those living with disability would not be left behind. There is a commission. I also want to say that we must actively promote and encourage behaviors and practices that ensure that no one is left behind. Like coming back to this disability thing you're talking about, in schools, for example, when you have children using a wheelchair, we must have those ramps to make sure they are able to. We must have toilets that are specifically built for them. We don't expect them to use the same kind of facilities that we use. So there must be that conscious effort, even in organizations everywhere, to ensure that all these are put in place. I remember as DG NAPTEC, I had quite a few persons with disabilities that I employed. I didn't see any before I got there, but I employed quite a number of them. But I wasn't very comfortable because I knew in my heart that we didn't have the facilities to make life easy for them. So these are things that we must begin to talk about now, to ensure that government makes it mandatory for organizations to put those kind of things in place for persons living with disability to ensure inclusion.
Yeah. I'm coming in here because, talking about mandate and national action by the government, there was, of course, a Disability Act passed into law. They had 5 years for transition. It ended in January. And, I raise this because even the commission that you speak of spoke out vehemently about exclusion. And the fact that that act has not even been implemented across board. So the demand that, you talked about ramps and building, you talked about inclusive education and, inclusion in civil service and employment laws and policies. Beyond the commission, where, again, it comes back to enabling policies and having them implemented, where is the role of government in ensuring that in as much as the commission is speaking out, that they also look at, possible implementation of those acts?
Now, you see, the thing is that government alone cannot do it. You and I, everyone has a role to play to ensure that these policies are implemented. The truth is the policies are there. The laws are there. Everything is there. Implementation has always been a problem. But who ensures implementation? We have the Labour Congress and all of that. It's not enough to come and say you want to go on strike and all of that. These are the things we should be talking about. Very serious issues like this are things they should be talking about, really. These are things all of us, the press, should be talking about. The media should be talking about this. The NGOs, everyone should be talking about this. We must come together to ensure that these are enforced and implemented.
That takes me right back to where I started from with you, Precious.
Yes, please.
I talked about the family earlier on, and by that I was referring to the cultural basis for the exclusion that we've been talking about. Because if you take a look at it, harmful cultural practices that actually discriminate against the girl child right from the moment she's born.
Of course.
They are still there. And people are quiet about these things. But I think that's where we should be starting from. So what do you think can be done to ensure that Nigerians, regardless of your ethnicity or your religion, can drop all of these harmful practices so that we can get the best out of not just the girl child, but even the women who are already grown?
Okay, we should look into gender equity. We should seriously look into that. And with that, I believe that a lot of things will be made easy for the girl child. I've understood that there are cultures that stops the girl child education. They stop the girl child from having a quality education. And these things are part of the discriminations that we need to look deep into. And then there are policies, again, that are not favorable to the girl child in the same country we're talking about. So we have to voice out. We have to speak out for the girl child. We have to ensure that a girl child is given 100% quality lifestyle that the boy child has. I think this is something that has to do with the way we put up the background from the onset. So I think with that, parity should be imposed, and then gender equity would also give us a good result.
And in addition to what she's saying, I think we should go back to the grassroots. We need to engage the community leaders, the women leaders. Who brought about these harmful cultural practices? Most of the time is the men.
Yeah.
They didn't fall from heaven. So for whatever selfish reasons, thinking that the woman's place is in the kitchen, in the bedroom, or nowhere at all, they came up with these funny, very harmful cultural practices towards the women. And so it is time for us to engage these community leaders, the men, and even the women who have lived with it through the years, and begin to think that it is okay. It is not okay. So we have to engage them from community to community. And again, I'll go back to what I said. We all have a role to play in this, to ensure that we change the mindset of these, community leaders, against harmful practices against children and girls, especially.
You're very spot on. Again, it also takes me to religion. I mean, you see a lot of interpretation or analysis of maybe the Holy Book and how it, supposedly suits the sayer. I mean, I've been in a conversation and someone said that they're talking about equity, but even in the Bible, Adam came first and Eve came second, and she was pronounced helper. So, how do you begin to demystify, when people's notion align with religion but at their own interpretation? So I do also believe that religion and religious groups can also come in here to have conversations around this as well.
When I say community leaders, I'm also thinking of the religious leaders in the community. Every leader, women leader, youth leaders, everyone must come together and have this conversation.
Okay, we have to go now. So when is your event? Where is it holding?
We're actually having a 3-day event, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, at POI quarters in Karu. On Thursday, we're going to be sensitizing the women on all sorts of vices like human trafficking, gender-based violence, and all of that. Then on Friday, we're going to be training them. They're going to be trained on various skills of their choice. And then we're going to be giving them empowerment packages, just very soft grants to start up their business. On Saturday, they are going to be exhibiting the products that they've produced and selling them. And that's what we have for 30 women this time around to celebrate the IWD.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
All right. We must thank you very much for coming on the program this morning.
Thank you for having us.
We've been speaking with Julie Donley, former Director General of NAPTIP and the Executive Chairman of Roost Foundation, and Precious JJ, Executive Director of Global Love Initiative, talking to us about the International Women's Day and, of course, looking at how to ensure that there's inclusion for women. Inspiring inclusion, values, and empowerment has been the topic. Thank you so much once again.
Thank you.
We'll take a short break.